Have you ever find yourself lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling and wondering, is it just me? Is this normal? Maybe the spark feels a little dimmer than it used to. Maybe your body doesn't quite respond the way it once did. Or maybe, after years of routine, or years of being on your own, you're not even sure what intimacy is supposed to look like anymore. Right out of the gate, nothing about you is broken. Not your body, not your desires, and certainly not your value. You're not too old for intimacy. You're just in a different season of it. And you know what? That season has its kind of beauty. Its rhythm. Its joy. Now, most people don't talk about this stuff. We grew up in a time when sex was either whispered about, joked about, or never mentioned at all. Especially once you crossed 60. Like somehow passion was something that belonged to the young. But here's the truth. Intimacy doesn't retire. And pleasure? That doesn't come with an expiration date. So let's get real. Let's talk about what changes in the bedroom after 60. Not the myths, not the stereotypes, the real stuff. The kind of changes that can feel confusing, surprising, even a little funny at times, but also the ones that open doors to deeper connection, more meaningful touch, and, yes, even better sex than you had in your 30s. One of the first things you might notice is that things slow down. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. It's kind of wonderful. See, when we're younger, there's often this unspoken pressure to perform, to be exciting, spontaneous, even acrobatic. But as we age, intimacy becomes less about proving something and more about experiencing something. Something real, something tender, something that isn't rushed. I talked with a gentleman not long ago. He's 68, remarried after losing his first wife. And he said something that stuck with me. He said, "We don't make love like we used to. We make love like we've all the time in the world." And that, right there, is the magic. You don't have to hurry. There's no rush to the finish line. Every kiss, every touch, every shared laugh under the covers, that becomes the experience. Sometimes that means spending a whole evening just touching and talking. Sometimes it's lying quietly together, holding hands, and simply being present. It's not about the goal. It's about the connection. Now, the second shift, it's one a lot of folks are nervous to talk about, and it has to do with how our bodies behave. Let's be honest. Your body isn't the same at 65 as it was at 35. Things might take a little longer. Sensations may be different. Certain positions might not feel as comfortable as they once did. For men, maybe things don't rise to the occasion as quickly or as reliably. For women, dryness or hormonal changes can make things feel unfamiliar. But here's the key. You don't need to fight your body. You need to befriend it. Think about it like this. If you were driving an old classic car, you wouldn't floor the gas pedal and expect it to race like a sports car. You'd take your time, warm it up, appreciate the feel of it. You'd enjoy the journey, not just the speed. It's the same in the bedroom. You learn to listen to your body. You get curious again. You become more present, more aware. And in that awareness, there's so much room for pleasure. If you're still here and this video is helping you, leave a quick comment below. I'd like to know you're watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time. Tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Let's keep going. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. When was the last time you honestly communicated in the bedroom? Not just a yes or no, not just a, do you want to, or is that okay? But an honest, open conversation about what feels good, what you're curious about, what's changed. One of the most potent things that shifts after 60 is your ability to speak up. Maybe when you were younger, you were too shy, too afraid to offend, or didn't know how to ask for what you wanted. But now, you've lived a life. You've earned the right to say, let's try something new. Or, that doesn't feel great for me anymore. Or even, I miss being touched this way. It might feel awkward at first, but that awkwardness passes. And what it makes room for is genuine connection. Intimacy that's built not just on attraction, but on trust, vulnerability, playfulness. Yes, playfulness. That's another thing that can blossom with age. When you stop worrying about how you look, or what your body is doing, or whether you're doing it right, you permit yourself to have fun. Laugh when you knock over the lube bottle. Smile when something doesn't go as planned. Try new things without the pressure for them to be perfect. I once met a couple who started having date nights in their bedroom every Saturday, with themes. One night was massage night, the next was storytelling night, and sometimes it was just, let's cuddle and watch an old movie together night. The point wasn't what they did, but how they did it, with intention, love, and joy. You see, aging doesn't take away your sensuality. It just invites you to experience it differently. And sometimes that difference, it's a gift, a deeper kind of intimacy, a slower, richer kind of pleasure, and a new appreciation for closeness. Not just skin to skin, but soul to soul. So if you're sitting there wondering if something's wrong because things feel different, don't. Different doesn't mean worse. It just means new. And new can be exciting. New can be beautiful. We've got more to talk about, and trust me, it only gets more interesting from here. So, let's pick up where we left off, talking about how intimacy changes after 60 in ways that might surprise you, and might even make you smile. Now, here's something you might not expect. Your definition of sex begins to expand. And I don't mean in a wild or outrageous way. I mean in a profoundly human way. After 60, you start realizing that intimacy doesn't always have to involve intercourse to be fulfilling. In fact, some of the most meaningful moments can come from touch, closeness, eye contact, even silence. I once spoke with a woman in her 70s who said, "You know, we haven't had traditional sex in years, but I've never felt more loved or more connected to him." That hit me, because what she was saying is that intimacy had become about presence, about being with someone fully, without distractions, holding each other in bed, falling asleep with your legs tangled together. That's intimacy too. And once you release yourself from the pressure of what intimacy should look like, the entire experience becomes more relaxed and more rewarding. Many older couples describe this chapter as the most intimate of their lives, not despite the physical changes, but because of them. There's something freeing about not chasing the exact expectations you had in your 20s or 30s. You get to rewrite the rules. You realize you don't need to perform, you need to connect. It also opens the door to creativity. Maybe you experiment with touch in new ways. Maybe you rediscover erogenous zones that never got much attention before. Maybe you try toys, positions, or settings you never considered because, well, why not? You're grown. You've earned the right to be curious. And this brings me to something else that shifts after 60, confidence. Now I know, some people will say, but I feel less confident now. My body's changed. I don't look the way I used to. And that's valid. But what I've seen time and time again is that emotional confidence starts to take the lead. You might not feel like a runway model, but you know who you are. You've lived, you've loved, you've survived. That kind of self-assurance, it's magnetic. There's a glow in someone comfortable in their skin, even if that skin has softened and wrinkled. It's not about looking like you did at 30. It's about showing up fully as you are at 60, 70, 80, and saying, "This is me. I still deserve love, pleasure, and connection. Trust me." That mindset makes a difference. It invites your partner to see you, really see you, in a deeply attractive way. It also allows you to feel more at ease. When you stop trying to hide your belly or cover the lines on your chest, you create space for intimacy to grow without fear or shame. If you're still here and this video is helping you, leave a quick comment below. I'd like to know you're watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time. Tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Let's keep going. Something else I want to talk about is the role of humor. You know, in your younger years, sex might have felt like it needed to be serious or sexy or cinematic, like it had to be a perfect moment straight out of a romance novel. But after 60, you realize that laughter is part of love. You start to accept that sometimes things go sideways, literally, and it's okay. You try a new position and get a leg cramp. You both reach for the same side of the bed and bump heads. You lose your balance trying to be romantic in the kitchen. These things happen, and when you can laugh together about them, instead of feeling embarrassed or frustrated, it deepens your bond. You're no longer aiming for perfection. You're just sharing a moment. That shared laughter is intimacy. And let me tell you, it's sexy in a way that no perfect performance could ever be. Now, another powerful change that happens, you start to notice how much intimacy is tied to the rest of your relationship. In younger years, sex might have been more physical, more about attraction and desire. But now, emotional connection takes the wheel. The way you speak to each other during the day, the little gestures of kindness, the moments when you feel seen or understood, those things directly affect what happens in the bedroom. So if things feel a little off between the sheets, sometimes it's worth asking, how are we doing outside the bedroom? Are you listening to each other? Are you feeling appreciated? Are you spending time together beyond just the routine? One woman told me that after her husband started helping her more around the house, without being asked, she found herself wanting to be close to him again, not because he vacuumed, but because she felt cared for. And that, at this age, is one of the biggest turn-ons. Feeling emotionally safe, feeling wanted, respected, and seen. That's not always easy, especially if you've been with someone for decades, or if you're navigating a new relationship after divorce, widowhood, or years of being single. Vulnerability can be scary, no matter how old you are. But here's the secret. The more open you are emotionally, the more open you'll feel physically. That's what makes this chapter of life so full of potential. You're no longer driven by hormones or ego. You're guided by heart. And when you tap into that, Intimacy becomes more than an act. It becomes a reflection of who you are together. So if you're watching this and thinking, okay, maybe I'm not alone in this, good, because you're not. And if you've been afraid to talk to your partner about these changes, or even admit them to yourself, that's okay. Start where you are. One honest conversation, one gentle touch, one night when you choose connection over expectation. Because this is part of your story, it's still being written, and the next chapter might surprise you. So, let's keep going, because here's the part that surprises almost everyone. After 60, intimacy isn't just still possible. It can become more meaningful, more freeing, and more fulfilling than ever before. You know what changes the most? Perspective. Somewhere along the way, you stop caring about everything you used to obsess over. The little insecurities, the need to impress, the pressure to perform. It all starts to fade. And what's left? Real connection, deep appreciation, and an invitation to rediscover pleasure on your terms. Now, I want to talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention: solo intimacy. Yep, I said it. Let's talk about self-pleasure. Here's the truth. Understanding your body, your needs, and what brings you joy is one of the most empowering things you can do at this stage. Whether you're single, partnered, or somewhere in between, physically reconnecting with yourself isn't something to feel embarrassed about. It's something to celebrate. It helps you stay in tune with your body. It relieves stress. It boosts confidence. And honestly, it can spark your curiosity again. I've heard from many older adults who've said, "I never really explored that before. I always thought it was something you grow out of." But you don't. You learn to experience it in a different, more personal way. Sometimes that means trying something new, maybe with a bit of help from modern tools. These days, there are so many products designed specifically for older bodies, with comfort and ease in mind. There's no shame in using a little help if it brings you closer to pleasure and joy. Remember, your body is still yours. It's still capable of feeling, of delighting, of discovering. And that brings us to one of the most beautiful truths of this entire journey. Intimacy after 60 is about connection, not perfection. Whether with yourself or a partner, the moments that matter most are where you feel seen. Where do you feel safe? You can be exactly who you are. Wrinkles, laugh lines, and all. And know you're worthy of love and pleasure. Let's talk about vulnerability for a moment. Because yes, the bedroom changes after 60, but the heart does too. Sometimes we carry emotional weight into intimacy. Grief, trauma, rejection, health scares. Life isn't always kind. And when your body changes or you've gone years without touch, it can be scary to open up again. You might wonder, will they still want me? Or, am I even capable of this anymore? But the most courageous thing you can do is be honest. Say what's true for you. If you're nervous, say it. If something feels different, talk about it. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the very thing that builds trust and allows love to grow deeper. And when you're with someone who responds with kindness and curiosity, that's where the real magic begins. I'll never forget a woman I interviewed, 74 years old, had been widowed for a decade. She told me, "When I finally got back out there, I was terrified. I didn't recognize my own body anymore. But the first man I was with, he just looked at me and said, 'You're beautiful. Let's take our time.' And that gave me all the confidence I needed." It's not about looking like you used to. It's about being willing to be seen now. That's intimacy. That's bravery. So whether you've been with your partner for 40 years or you're learning to love again in this chapter of life, I want to remind you, it's not too late. It's not too late to feel butterflies. It's not too late to explore. It's not too late to say, "I want more closeness in my life." Maybe it starts with a conversation, a gentle touch, or simply saying to yourself, "I still deserve joy," because you do. And listen, this stage of life isn't about winding down. It's about opening up. It's about discovering that intimacy, just like love, doesn't fade with age. It evolves. It becomes less about urgency and more about presence, less about expectations and more about experience. You might be dealing with health issues, medications, limited mobility, or emotional blocks, but you're also wiser, more compassionate, more in tune with what truly matters. And that is a powerful place to build from. So if you're watching this and thinking, "But what if I've been out of the game for too long?" Or, "What if my body doesn't cooperate the way it used to?" Or, "What if I've never really felt confident in the bedroom, even when I was younger?" You're not alone, and you're not too late. Every single day is a new chance to explore connection, whether that means sharing your body with someone else, or simply learning to be gentler and more loving toward yourself. Thanks for watching today's video. Take a moment to comment below with one takeaway and how you'll apply it in your own life. We do read and appreciate every message. If you found this helpful content, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit. Your support helps us keep showing up for you. See you next time.